Thank you for flipping to the B-side of April 2017. In this video, I'm going to talk about albums I listened to this month that I loved, show you the records that I got, also some cool music news and fan questions. Check it out. So you may be wondering, why isn't this video out on Monday like it's supposed to be? Well, Record Store Day took up a lot of our time, and we had to release this Wednesday so that we could do an awesome video for you for Record Store Day, which if you haven't seen yet, check it right there. Let's jump right into it, shall we? Fan questions! Records and Film asked, what's the one record you regret buying, selling, or trading in? I do have one specific answer for that. So Nujab is one of my favorite producers of all time, Japanese hip-hop producer that fused jazz and hip-hop. Actually, back when this was Damn It Sandy, we did an Artist of the Month video about him. So if you don't know his music, I highly recommend it. For hip-hop fans, jazz fans, and really anybody that likes music in general would love his stuff. He's responsible for the score for the anime Samurai Champloo. And it's an incredibly sought-after record to get. I know there's some unofficial pressings of it. I'm not sure if they're all technically bootlegs, but there's a few different versions. It's on black, it's on a few different colors. It's a 3 LP set, and it's incredibly hard to find. I was at a record swap in Pasadena, California, maybe 3 years ago, and I found a copy of this record on black vinyl for $25. They legitimately left out a zero there because I feel like that's what it goes for now, give or take. I bought it without even hesitation. I couldn't believe it. I brought it home. I listened to it. I loved it. Then there was a period about 6 or 8 months later when I needed some quick money for an unexpected bill. And I looked at this and I was like, I love this record, but I'll probably find it again. It might get a repress. There's enough demand. So I sold it. I think I sold it for like $120. And I've never seen it since for less than that. So that is on the top of my list for Holy Grail Records to one day have it again. I'm hoping it gets a repress. Kind of doubting it, but that is the one I regret the most. Ben Inrush asked, any tips how to get people that obliviously have their records way too high priced to bring down their price to a reasonable level without them getting stupid mad? If people are going to get mad about their pricing, they're probably going to be unreasonable to begin with. But what you can do is basically go to Discogs, go to eBay, look at the past sold on eBay, not what's currently selling, not what people are asking for it, but what it has sold for in completed items. Look at Discogs, look at the median, and just point them to that and say, this is what it's sold for on average in the past. If their prices are way higher than that, ask them why. If they can't justify it, hopefully they'll drop their price for you. If not, you'll find it again. Tin Can 728 asks, what shelf do you use for your records? Well, before they retired it, I used the IKEA Expedit. It's perfect. You can get them in multiple types of 2x4, 2x2, 4x4. I have a couple of those actually, all of those spread out around my room. But they retired that line and replaced it with the Kallax, which is almost the same thing. There's just a slight change. I think it's a little more, I don't even know what the difference is, to be totally honest. But either of those options, if you go on Craigslist and find some old Expedits, or you go on IKEA's site and you get some Kallax, those are the ultimate way to store your records, in my opinion. Aaron Henry asks, how do you organize your records? Good question. My big shelf right here, the one that you usually see behind me in most of my videos, that's done A to Z in indie pop, indie rock, kind of rock stuff from the 90s to now. At the bottom, I do have a couple rows dedicated to hip-hop, R&B, soul kind of stuff that's also alphabetical. I have squares around the room. One is for jazz, one is for world music with an emphasis on Brazilian and African. I have 2 squares over there filled with soundtracks, A to Z. And then I have a 2x2 right here that's all my down-tempo electronic, ambient, modern classical stuff that's also A to Z. If I didn't alphabetize my stuff, I would never be able to find anything. Alex D453 asked, do you believe that colored vinyl sounds worse than standard black? That's a question that's been asked for a fairly long time in the vinyl community, and I don't know if there's a definitive answer. My answer is that I don't think it makes a difference. There are some variants of colored vinyl, like haze, that tends to have a little more wear on the record and brings out the surface noise a bit more, but just a color versus black, it really depends on how it's being pressed and how it was mastered. I've had black records that sound like garbage, and I've had colored records that sound amazing, so it really depends on how it's made versus the color. Don't be afraid to get a colored variant. I think that ultimately, unless you're an incredible audiophile with the most distinguished ears, you're not going to tell a difference. Not Lads asked, back again, do you like the Black Keys? I'm not going to be as quick and dismissive as your last answer, but the short of it is, I am not a big Black Keys fan. I think that there's a strong camp between them and strong camp between Jack White and the White Stripes. I lean more towards Jack White. White Stripes are a band I grew up on, and I feel like for modern blues rock, Black Keys kind of just do a variation of White Stripes in my mind. It's not as interesting to me. It's not as impressive. I think those guys are talented in their own right, but I've never enjoyed one of their albums in full. I do like some tracks, like Lonely Boy is a really good track, but overall, I would say the Black Keys are very middling to me. Simon Millar asked, Do you have a favorite Vinyl Me Please release so far? I feel like I'm gonna have to be biased and say that the new Gorillaz Demon Days is my favorite just because of everything about it, which I'm gonna show off in the later segment. Milo Hempel asked, when you upgrade a record, what do you do with the old version? I'm assuming you mean that upgrade is finding a rarer version of it, a different variant, or just a cleaner copy. Basically, if I do that, I'm going to either take the old copy and give it to a friend, or I'm gonna sell it. You gotta sometimes sell the first copy to recoup some of your costs to get the rarer copy. And I've done that a handful of times. Let's talk about the music I listened to this month. So there weren't too many albums this month that I wanted to hear, but the ones I did get to listen to were pretty good. So because I realized that these videos come out before the end of the month, there tends to be a batch of album releases on the 28th every month, and because of that, I won't be able to talk about those because I filmed this before that. The three that fell into that camp are Sylvan Esso, Mark Lanigan Band, and Gorillaz. So I didn't get to hear any of those because as of making this video, they're not out yet. I'll talk about them next month. I did get to listen to 4, and of the 4, I liked most of them. Father John Misty is back with his 3rd album, Pure Comedy, and I picked up the deluxe because his last deluxe for I Love You Honey Bear was this crazy fold out which it plays music and there's a pop-up. It's nuts. This guy knows how to do gimmicky vinyl packaging well, and this is no exception. So Pure Comedy, I'm going to talk about the music real fast, is absolutely a triumph. He has put out 2 incredible records thus far, and I was wondering if he could keep it going, and he absolutely has. He talks a lot about, humanity, and he pokes fun at a lot of the things that are ridiculous about us as society, especially millennials, I suppose. And this album, front to back, is a great listen. It is on par, if not better, than his previous 2 releases. I think that his amazing buttery voice mixed with the sometimes simplistic but often really intricate instrumentals behind it makes for a great album that is in a league of its own. Very curious to hear what the Fleet Foxes album will be that's coming out without him this year. I'm not going to compare the two because Fleet Foxes is definitely more pure folky, and this is a little more satirical at times. It has a little more humor to it, dark humor. And if you like Father John Misty's previous stuff, you'll love this. It came in like a clear, kind of thick outer sleeve. You pop it open and it has this intersection that has a multitude of covers. You could replace this. I put the rainbow because that was my favorite one. But you could actually, you can change it to whatever you want. If you want it to be this kind of dark red sky situation, you can do that. You take these out, a whole bunch of goodies inside too. So we got a download code, of course. And I think there were 6 different trading cards you can get. I got Despair, but they're these holographic trading cards that you get inside. I think this is a nice little touch. I hope I can find the other ones. I'd like to have all of them. Yeah, back of the jacket has some windows too, so you can see a little bit of the other cover. It's like changing day to night and all that stuff. Really well done. 2 nice inner sleeves, and the colors of the records are really, really fantastic. I'm a super fan. It's copper and aluminum are the 2 colors, but it's more of like a kind of milky, shardy kind of aluminum, like shards of it. Or it's really interesting out of light and under light, because out of light you get this really ripply marble effect, and this is the same kind of situation where under light it's really neat, and then out of light you get this almost like magic eye, trippy. It's great. These are 2 of my favorite variants in a long time because they're unique. There's not too much like this. And finally, there is a big fold-out poster that has lyrics in the back, so that is always a welcome touch in a big deluxe package. Select retailers actually got a 7-inch in addition to the record, and mine was lucky enough to get that. It is Real Love Baby with Rejected Generic Pop Song March 15 number 3. That's a very Father John Misty title. So not a colored 7-inch, but it is a welcome 2 more songs in this great album sequence. I spent a little time with the new Gas album, Narkopop, and I have to be honest, I can't give it a full review because it's something I really need to sit down when I'm not thinking about anything else and really dissolve into my ears with some headphones, because it is a very heavy listen. It's ambient music, but it is dark, droning, and very complex, like all of his stuff. From what I've heard, I've listened to about half the album, and it's quite a long album. It is wonderful if you enjoy dark ambient music. He came out with another masterpiece that is so heavily layered. I need to give it a full listen before I give it my full thoughts. I know it's doing very well critically, as well it should. And if you like that genre, this is probably a must-hear album this year. Fermin is out with their 3rd album, Belong. And unfortunately, as much as I loved their first album and liked their second album, they're slowly declining in my mind. I listened to about half the album, and while the singing is great and the arrangements are Baroque pop at its finest, I do feel like overall there's something missing. It's certainly not a bad album, but if I had to listen to one of their 3, it would still be their first album. They're self-titled. They're super good live, so if they play live, I'd like to see this album live to see if it changed things for me. But for me, after listening to most of it, I don't think I'm going to revisit it. And then finally, Kendrick did drop his album, Damn. I loved it, obviously. Click here if you haven't seen my review of it. I do a little more of an in-depth review than I would in the B-side. But what I thought of this album after listening to it after about a week, I might bump my score from an 8, spoilers, to an 8.5. It is really a terrific album in his catalog, and all the songs are growing on me, even the ones I didn't like on first listen. If you like Kendrick, I'm sure you love this album, and Love, featuring Zakari, could be the song of the year. Calling it out. Let's talk a little music news. Not too much crazy going on in my world, but the things that interested me are the new Vinyl Me Please record of the month was announced, and it is Tidal by Fiona Apple. First ever official vinyl release, and I love Fiona Apple. I think she is one of the gems of the 90s, and Tidal specifically is her best album by far. I would not have purchased this necessarily if it just came out on its own, but the fact that I'm part of the vinyl club means I'm going to be getting it next month, and I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it again for the first time in a while, and I think it's going to be a great addition. I'm not going to want to get rid of it or trade it. I think it's an essential album for anyone to listen to if you like singer-songwriters from the 90s. Gorillaz announced a North American tour. It's the first time they're touring in years. I remember the first time I almost saw Gorillaz. I was 17 in high school. They were playing in Harlem, and my mother, who I love, was being a little protective and wouldn't let me go to the show. My friends all went, and they were totally safe and had an incredible time, but ever since then, I had been really wanting to go see Gorillaz. So hopefully this is my chance. They are headlining at the Forum in Los Angeles, which was a great venue, but tickets sold out, A, very fast, and B, the cheapest tickets were about $100. So I'm hoping to find tickets for less than that in the aftermarket. I'm kind of doubting it based on how the aftermarket works, but it's a little pricey for me. I would pay $100 for good seats, but not for the nosebleeds, so we'll see what happens. I was not at Coachella, but I know that for weekend 1, I haven't looked into weekend 2, during DJ Snake's set, Lauryn Hill came out and did 3 songs, including 2 Fugees songs. I love Lauryn Hill. I love the Fugees. What pisses me off is not that I wasn't there, but even if I was there, you wouldn't have caught me at DJ Snake's set at all, so I would have missed it regardless. So that's a crazy person to bring out. I don't even know what the connection is there. If you know, leave a comment. But seeing Lauryn Hill in 2017 is definitely a rarity. Everyone who was at that set, I hope they appreciated what they were seeing, because knowing the DJ Snake crowd, I'm sure most of them didn't even know who Lauryn Hill was. And now let's look at the records that came in this month. So finally, after months of waiting, this record is in and I can show you guys. May morning, afternoon, evening LPs came in, and it is glorious. This record has a very simplistic aesthetic on the cover. It's just the logo with the colors. The back has a very simple list of the tracks, and when you open it, or you can see, this is an incredibly thick deluxe spine. This almost looks like a box set in terms of the presentation. Inside we have a picture of the band, and each morning, afternoon, and evening shows a song list with lyrics on the inside. This is such a nice, well done, put together package. And the bonus, which is very cool, I didn't know this was happening, the first 300 people to pre-order, which was the group I was in, got a binder paper sheet with handwritten lyrics to their new song, Our Love is a Painted Picture, signed by Dave, the lead singer and main songwriter. That is a cool little touch. I do wish it would have been a song from the Everglow, but that's, I guess, a little wishful thinking. But I love this. I can't believe he wrote out 300 of these. That's dedication. The discs themselves are very cool. Each one has a different color to it, and they're see-through with a little bit of smoke on the inside if you hold them up to light. Really pretty, really well done, and overall this was a package worth waiting for. One of my favorite folk albums of all time, possibly top 5, is Jose Gonzalez, In Our Nature. And I've had a copy for a while, but I recently was able to upgrade to a better copy on Discogs, the limited edition clear vinyl version. This is really nice, and while it doesn't sound any different than the black, I'm excited to have the limited variant of one of my favorite records. If you haven't heard this, this is essential. Oh man, it's here. Demon Days repress by Vinyl Me Please for April's record of the month. I was so stoked to have this because I was never going to pay those aftermarket prices of $200-300 for this record. And now I don't have to because I got lucky enough to get it before it sold out. The iconic cover, the 4-way split. Of course, the back has the track list, and the gatefold has an awesome picture of every single song with its own art. So that is really cool. I would love to get little posters or little prints of each of those art and put them in a frame. The inner sleeves all have the members, one on each side. Very convenient that there were 4 of them. And they're on translucent red vinyl, which I think is a really nice complement to the cover, even though there's not really a strong red on the cover. There's kind of a red hue over all of them. or most of them. I said last time that the record was 45 RPM, and it turns out I was incorrect. It is actually half speed mastered, which is not the same thing. So it spins at 33, but it does have incredibly high fidelity. I would say that it sounds better than the original, having talked to people who have both. So if you get this one, don't feel like you need to shell out for the original. Really great choice, guys. Hopefully there's more high quality represses like this in the future. This is a record I did not talk about in the A side, and I picked up because my buddy Davis recommended it to me. This is a Japanese band called Ogre, you asshole. And they do the art is really nice. It's simplistic. It has watercolor over crude drawings of a cat and what looks like to be an alien or a human. And they speak in Japanese throughout the whole record, but this is some of the catchiest rock I've ever heard. I don't know what they're saying, and I've had some of the bridges stuck in my head after listening to it. This is a great album. It's poppy, it's rocky, the guitar work is excellent, and I looked up the rest of the albums this band has, and they all go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This is an incredibly difficult band to get a hold of the discography of, so I'm going to start tracking them down best I can. Definitely recommend listening to Ogre, you asshole. It is time for my Vinyl Moon of the month. Always looking forward to that goodness. And as always, there is a booklet. This is Vinyl Moon Volume 19, Sacred Dust. The booklet has little snippets of all the artists and a little picture representing them, which is nice. Let's open this. I don't know what is happening here. This is very confusing. I'm opening this record and everything's falling apart. I think it's intended though. So opening it, there's like a wraparound. There's 3 pieces of wraparound that leads to the jacket itself, which does fold out to be a gatefold. Very nice gatefold. This is a nice colored record as per usual. It's this blue marbly kind of color. It almost reminds me of a crisp blue sky day over the desert, which may be what they're going for. And what's very exciting for me about this edition of Vinyl Moon is it features one of my good friends, Mr. Richard Houghton, on the album. If you don't know Richard, please click here and spend a little bit of your time watching this incredible mini doc I did about him, his music. He live cuts his own records at home, other people's records. He does experimentation with vinyl. He is such a fascinating and talented person, and the fact that one of his best songs, New Mexico, is featured on this compilation, I'm so glad I got to connect Brandon and Richard, because that was a match made in heaven in my mind. So congrats to both of them for getting such an awesome score. And I have to figure out what these are for. I think it's like a totem pole situation, right? Always a cool release from Vinyl Moon. Now let's slow it down some, you no split clown bum. Avalanche by MF Doom and Madlib, aka Mad Villain, although it's not penned as Mad Villain. It is. This is a 7-inch record of that track, which I'm hoping is leading into a new album. I've been waiting so long for this to come in, and it is perfect. So it is this 7-inch record of that song, which if you haven't heard and you are a hip-hop fan, it's just MF Doom spitting bars for like minutes. It's wonderful. And then Victor Vaughn, Metal Fingers, MF Doom himself as a figure, which I cannot wait to get a glass case for and put him in. This is going to be definitely collectible down the road, because the first figure he ever had is impossible to find, and this is the second. But I will show you without fully taking him out. He's pretty big, and he comes in this protective case. He's carrying a briefcase of what is probably loot. Super articulated. I love his face under the mask, and it's just a really badass statue. Really happy to own this, and my love of MF Doom is now in a physical form. So that was the B-side. I want to know what albums you heard this month that you liked that I missed out on. I would love to hear what records you picked up, so please leave a comment and let me know about that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, make sure notifications are on so you don't miss any videos like this in the future. New videos coming at you very soon. What's up, guys? We are here at Amoeba Music in Hollywood. As you can see,